Welcome. Please comment where you're watching from in the world. I still get small prickles when I think about that night. Not the good kind, the kind that sits behind your sternum and rattles the way your keys do when you take a wrong turn. We'd finally managed to schedule our second date after a couple of fitful weeks of life getting in the way. He picked somewhere that sounded cute over text, dim lights, sharing plates, the sort of place where people bring their dates and pretend to be effortlessly cultured. I was actually looking forward to it. We met near the river. Lisbon was doing that soft gold evening thing, trams clacking and the scent of frying oil and salt on the breeze. He was charming enough, attentive in that way that feels like warm hands at first, and chose a couple of plates to split, which I appreciated. Sharing is intimate but not weird, and I'm a big fan of trying tiny things. We were midway through a laugh about something dumb when the waiter came to take our order. He pushed one of the plates he recommended, salata con pesto, and I stopped the conversation long enough to tell him, politely and plainly, I'm severely allergic to nuts. Anaphylaxis. No nuts, please. I explained it the way you explain anything important in public, clipped, clear, the sharp syllables carrying authority. The waiter nodded, reassuring. Sim neo ha problema, he said with that quick, efficient smile. Neo ponho pesto. He assured us he could leave the pesto out. I relaxed. He left. The food arrived, everything steaming and bright and smelling like basil and olive oil. We started moving things onto plates, and the evening unraveled in the pleasing way first dates often do. Small silences that feel comfortable, a hand brushing mine across the table, stories exchanged like currency. Then he did the thing that made my stomach drop. He slid half of the salad onto his plate, and as he shifted leaves and forked an olive, I saw it, a faint residue of green at the bottom of the bowl, like someone had scrubbed paint and missed a stroke. My stomach tightened. Does that look like pesto to you? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual in front of him. He looked. Yeah, maybe? Hard to tell. He shrugged and said it as if it were an academic question, not something that could mean a hospital room for me. I called the waiter back over and pointed. That looks like pesto on the plate. Did this have pesto? He leaned in, squinting at the pale smear. Neo Paris, he said. Neo eco que tenha. His tone was wrong, too quick to dismiss, like he wanted the problem to be small. I told him I was sure the menu listed pesto, and that I have a severe nut allergy. The waiter blinked, and then, with a slightly faster breath than before, vuverificar. He took the plate away. 10 minutes. That's the unit of time I remember, because it stretched like elastic. 10 minutes while we made small talk that felt like a taut rope. I smiled, laughed on cue, and all the while my chest beat a little too fast. The room hummed, forks on ceramic, the low buzz of couples talking, a tram bell far away. The waiter did not return for 10 minutes. My mouth tasted metallic. I forced myself to breathe like a calm person. I forced my hands to unclench. I thought through the steps. EpiPen in the bag, where is it? Okay, breathe, you didn't eat it, you didn't eat it. When the same waiter came back, he didn't look at me at first. He simply took the plate away with an efficient, embarrassed motion. No words. He walked away with my small, impossible thing in his hands. We stared at each other like a pair of people who'd both seen the same bad movie. Heedless, almost, of my panic, a different waiter returned with a new plate. Disculp, he said, voice soft. Tina pesto. O pesto tem noses. He translated slowly, as if the full meaning needed time to sink in. The pesto had nuts. That moment, the moment the truth was delivered, is strange because it's both tiny and enormous. Everything in me uncoiled, adrenaline, the cold sweat cartoon of doom. I hadn't even taken a bite, and still my throat closed as if I'd swallowed the wrong thing. It's an odd, helpless terror to be seconds from ingesting a substance that could end you. You rely on kitchens, on menus, on human beings to take the words seriously. That the waiter had walked away for 10 minutes before coming back, without offering any explanation, without saying, I'm so sorry, in a way that felt like urgency, felt like negligence. I was furious, but I was also immediately, shamefully, aware of how frail I seemed. The person who could collapse if a vinaigrette was wrong. He, the man I was on a date with, became my anchor. He didn't flinch, didn't look annoyed. We'll sort this, he said, the kind of voice you want when something is wrong, direct, warm, practical. He flagged the waiter, asked questions sharply, insisted politely until the kitchen confirmed the pesto's composition. He apologized on my behalf when I could barely form words. He did the small, ordinary heroism that matters. He asked the waiter to remove the plate, to clean the area, to check other dishes. He stayed physically close, not hovering, but like a body shield. He kept asking if I was okay in that steady, present way you hope for from someone you barely know. I remember the sensation of my chest unclenching slowly as the staff confirmed the mistake and apologized. The adrenaline faded into an exhausted, shaky relief. My date handled it like someone who'd been through crisis response training, not because he had the credentials, but because he had enough empathy to do what mattered. He didn't make me feel bad for the food being sent back. He didn't scoff at my precaution. He was quietly, stubbornly kind. We finished the rest of the meal with the shadows of what had happened still lodged in the corners of my mind, but eased enough to laugh again. He was careful about what he ordered after that, checking ingredients, translating menu notes, reading the italicized lines like a liturgist. We walked out into the Lisbon night, the cobblestones slick and the air cool. He offered to walk me to the tram stop, even though our journey split there. I realized, as we said goodbye beneath a street lamp, that the evening could have gone disastrously wrong in small, swift ways. Not because of malice, but because of complacency and the careless assumption that a menu note is just decoration. It started with a text that was too certain. "Next Easter we're doing this," he wrote. "Our firstborn will be named Claire." I laughed. "Sir, let's get through the first date." He wrote like it was already promised. That should have been my first clue. He'd been charming over messages, attentive, funny, but there were red flags I smoothed down because everything else gleamed. He told me to wear something black and tight. I wore an oversized white sweater instead. At 6 he scolded me for not being immediate enough. Tisk tisk. Then begrudgingly told me to wait on a corner. No restaurant name. No directions. Just wait. I stood in the cold, boots scuffing at slush, wondering why his surprise required me to shiver. He crossed from his building with a confident, practiced stride and led me into the keg. Not the cinematic steakhouse he'd implied. I felt overdressed, ridiculous, my cheeks flushed. He launched into a monologue, 15 minutes of him, not a single question about me. He filled pauses with opinions, then stood on them, as if his voice were the only furnishing the table needed. When I tried to speak, he stooped and popped a bite of food into my mouth without asking. It should have been a joke. It felt like control. Later he told me, plainly, that he preferred to make his own opinion of people. In that moment I realized he wasn't curious about me. He wanted to define me. He spoke about women in that old, brittle way. Men decide, women yield. Boundaries are important, he said, smiling with certainty. For men. Then softer, like an aside. For women, sometimes you have to bend. My throat tightened. Charm bent into something colder. He measured me between gestures. A thumb under my chin, a hand at my wrist, a knee that edged closer like a claim being staked. He narrated who I was as if drafting my biography. You're shy. You're close to family. None of it true, but stated like fact. When I contradicted him, he smoothed it over. My corrections felt frivolous, unnecessary. His opinion was the room's architecture. He bragged about money and flashy trips, feathering the conversation with Miami Airbnb anecdotes. He told a story about a woman who got up and ran from dessert and laughed like it was a punchline. The laughter felt like a test. How much disregard could I tolerate? Small invasions kept coming. He fed me to silence me, he interrupted. He dismissed my interruptions with a patronizing there. The more I tried to occupy the air, the narrower the space became. People around us could have seen his smile clamp down into something precise and deliberate. When the bill came, he reached for it with the same assuredness he'd used all night. He paid, and the gesture felt less like generosity and more like purchase, payment for attention, for compliance. We left into the thin night air, gray with a dusting of snow. He offered to walk me to my car. For a second I considered misreading him. Maybe nerves explain the intensity. Maybe I was oversensitive. Then, the arm draped across me, possessive, not protective. I told him I wanted to go home. He said, irritated, "Don't be like that." When I repeated myself, he laughed, not kindly, but with the amusement of someone who believes discomfort is negotiable. It felt like a closing of terms I'd never agreed to. I blocked his number that night. I deleted his messages. He somehow found my work email and later sent an overwrought apology threaded through more future fantasies. He asked to see me again. The words were honey-coated and precise. They smelled of a man confident his charm could rewrite boundaries. I kept thinking about the flood of texts, how he sketched a future in tiny messages, picking baby names and planning holidays like he'd already moved the furniture. Waiting on that corner, I realized his eagerness had teeth. It was certainty, not curiosity. Inside the restaurant, his confidence became a series of small invasions. He waved away the waiter's suggestions as if other opinions were nuisances. He fed me a bite mid-sentence and laughed about a woman who ran from dessert like it proved something. Each interruption clipped my words. Each condescending there narrowed my space. Confidence that looks like this is not harmless. On the walk back, his arm draped across me possessively. I said I wanted to go. He said, "Don't be like that," as if discomfort were negotiable. When I repeated myself, he chuckled in a way that made my skin crawl. So there's me and Kian. 3 dates in. Grand chats for weeks before that. Voice notes, daft memes, the whole thing. He's very Southside gym lad turned. I'm doing therapy now, spiritual. Candles in the gaff and a cold plunge in Sandy Cove at sunrise for the head. He's kind in that public way people get when they've learned how to be seen being kind. Still, I liked him. He listened. Asked follow-ups. Remembered I take 2 sugars and no milk like a sinner. We did pints in town, a walk on the canal, ramen where he let me steal his egg. On our 3rd date, he brought me to a gig in Wayland's and put a hand on my back in the crush like a decent human, not a claim. Nothing mad, nothing ick. Anyway, Sunday evening after, I give him a ring because he'd mentioned being free, and I'm not arsing around playing ghost. It rings out. Then a sound kicks in, soft and tinny, humming, like someone half remembering a lullaby. You know that tune everyone's Annie hums while they're boiling potatoes? That one, only off-key. After the hum, a little squeal. A baby squeal. Proper delighted with himself gurgle. I'm halfway smiling at the cuteness when a man's voice, his voice, comes on laughing. That's my son. Leave a message. I just freeze. The phone is warm against my ear, and I can hear my own breath like a creep, and the world's gone sideways by a few degrees. Son. As in child. As in a whole person none of us mentioned. I hang up without thinking, like I've been caught listening at a door. I stand in my kitchen, holding the phone like it might explode. The kettle clicks on by itself because I'd set it before calling, and that little house noise makes the moment even dafter. A baby coo. A man saying, "That's my son," like he's pointing to the weather. And me, the Egypt who's been talking big about boundaries and readiness, and still managed to miss the biggest thing in the room that wasn't even in the room. I text him because I have to. Me. "Jesus, so ye a little one, have ye?" The dots bounce. Stop. Start. Kian. Haha, ya sure look. I thought that was common knowledge. I stare at the sentence, so long the screen dims. Common knowledge where, lad? In your head. In the WhatsApp with the boys. I ring him again before I can wind myself up any further. He answers this time, all breezy. "Heya. Sorry, was in the shop there." Sound. I say, trying to keep my voice in the realm of not shrill. "Just heard your voicemail. The baby. Your son. He goes, that little hum of a man who's going to be annoying. "Yeah. Right?" I say. "And you didn't think to mention him ever?" He does a sigh that belongs to a person put upon by an invoice. "Ah, come on. It's not like I was hiding him. It's common knowledge. Everyone knows." "Not everyone, apparently," I say, and I can feel my cheeks heat up because this is mortifying and I hate that it's me who feels ashamed. "Look," he says, and his voice gets lower, like I'm a horse he's trying to pat. "It's complicated. We're not together, me and his mother. It's grand we co-parent. I just don't like putting him on the apps, you know? Don't want weirdos. Protect his privacy." "Grand," I say because that part's fair. "But you could have told me. On a date. In English. A fact." He laughs. "I didn't want to scare you off." "Right," I say, and the laugh he did sticks in my teeth like a poppy seed. "So your plan was don't say anything, hope I never ring, and surprise me with a child on the voicemail?" "Jesus, Kian. It's not that deep," he says, slipping into that fella tone that makes me want to climb a lamp post and scream. "You're overthinking. You're like very intense about this." Intense. My favorite word to prove a point without having one. "Here's the thing," I say, and I'm shaking a bit from anger or caffeine I couldn't tell you. "I'm not ready for kids. I'm trying to buy a place. I have a job that eats my evenings. I can barely keep a basal plan alive. Whether or not you have a child isn't a cute surprise. It's a massive life detail. It doesn't make you bad. It does make you someone who left me out of the truth." "Relax," he says. "It's common. If you say knowledge again," I say, and I hear my mother in my throat, I'll hang up. A beat. He sighs. "Sorry. I I've had bad reactions before. People assume stuff. Or they want to meet him on date 2, which is weird. Or they run. So I figured, feel it out. You're sound. I didn't want to wreck it. There's something in that I do understand. The messy bits. The way you want to present your best shelf of self and leave the junk drawer shut. I'm not cruel. I picture a custody calendar stuck to his fridge with a magnet shaped like a pint. I picture the tiny socks on a radiator, the half-built IKEA thing. I picture a woman I don't know who has to do twice the work because a man she used to love wants to dip in and out like tides. Okay, I say softer. It's probably not easy, but I shouldn't have to trip over the truth by accident. Fair, he says, and he sounds like he means it for exactly 1 second before he ruins it. But you'd have legged it if I told you straight away. Maybe, I say. Or maybe I'd have thanked you for the honesty, and we'd have saved each other time. We hang up on some version of civil. I make the tea the kettle wanted to make for me earlier, and stand sipping it while scrolling back through our messages like a detective in a bad Irish drama. Were there clues? Photos with a blur in the background? A tiny teddy in a corner? Did he skip Saturday mornings a lot? There's a selfie from his hall, white walls, gray console table, big circular mirror that takes up the whole shot. Is that a nappy caddy half behind the console? Or a basket for scarves? I zoom until the pixels get shy. I scroll the Instagram I barely stalked before. Oh, here's an old story highlight I'd missed. Family. Just 3 clips. A birthday cake with a single candle, a tiny shoe next to a big shoe, a blurry swing in a park. No faces. He wasn't lying about privacy. I sit down. The tea goes weird in my mouth, like it's had enough of me. I ring my pal Aoife, who has a toddler and the patience of a saint, but the eyes of a hawk. Girl, she says, after I unload the voicemail saga. Men will forget to tell you they've a wife if you don't ask. Common knowledge, my arse. The only common thing there is the sense. I feel rotten, I say. Not about the kid. About being played. You're not being played, she says. You're being given information late. Now you do with it what you need. I sleep like someone's left a hallway light on in my head, restless, blinking. In the morning I text him. Me, I've thought about it. You seem like a lovely dad. But I'm not in a place for this. I need honesty up front. Mind yourself. 3 dots. Then a long one. Kian, knew you'd bail. Proves my point. Then a second text, more measured. Look, no hard feelings. Best of luck with the house hunting. I put the phone face down and look around my rented kitchen, wobbly shelf, plant that's half dead, mug that says gas, in a font that isn't. I touch the envelope on the table with the big ugly bank logo inside, my deposit saver statement. I think of the baby's little squeal, the humming, the way his voice said, my son, like it was a star in a sky he'd named. First make we set ground rules. I like breeze, I like movement, but I no day enter inside bush with man way I just swipe right on. I be Lagos babe, not Mowgli helper. So when Bumble match, make we call him Teo, open chat with we should go on a hike, just us somewhere quiet. I type back, quiet where? Sambisa? He drop laugh emoji, then another message quick. No now, a sweet trail outside town. Private coup. Not so problem day start. Profile no bad, clean beard. Eyeglasses way look like startup CEO. 1 photo with small Pekin. Probably niece or prop, Husabi. And that standard waterfall pose like him day audition for Discovery Channel. Our first just sweet small. But the speedway he want move. Omoen. When can I see you? What day works? We should leave the city. I tell him, relax. Coffee first. Public place. Where people day. Generator noise as backup choir. Next morning he circle back. Hike makes conversation flow. No distractions. I reply. I no day do no distractions with stranger. Park or cafe. He switched tactic. Okay, I'll drive. I'll pick you. Me. You no need my address. I go meet you there. Him. Why you day fear? I be gentleman. Me. Gentleman no insist. We fix plan. Saturday 10 a.m. Big park with enough joggers to run relay. Friday evening he text again. Just drop your address, I'll come get you. I send him my emoji. Which part you no understand? He reply, you like forming. I answer, I like living. Saturday morning, sun still day toast slowly. Air get that wet leaf smell way Lagos, somehow preserved between exhaust and suya smoke. I reach early, sit near plant and chips woman, by bottle water. Teo show 10 minutes late. Fine boy correct, scent like new bar soap, grin too wide. First sentence, this park too crowded. Let's go somewhere quieter. I smile without my teeth. Brother, not people I come see. We walk a small loop. He try touch my lower back. I comment for the hand like hot pot. He laughs small, then voice change tone. You too tense. I fit drive us to one nice trail. 20 minutes. I shake head. I know day enter motor with person way I know no. He set jaw. Now why you day act like I thief? I think but no talk, if shoe size fit. Questions begin. Where you day stay? Which bus stop near your house? You day work island or mainland? What'n be your surname? Your parents day Lagos? He talk him like normal gist, but the checklist style day loud. I answer with fog. Somewhere. Different places. Office day office. Dem day fine. He chuckle. You hard. I say, I day alive. By 11:30 I tell him say I day bounce. Market day call me. Stew no go cook itself. He insists to escort me reach car. I point general direction and swerve. I go day fine. Okay, so your address? He try again, like person way no fit believe the word no. Guy, respect yourself. He hiss thin, as if mosquito bite him. I reach house, just my friend Igioma on voice note. Another one-way one rename boundary to attitude. We laugh. I drop phone, crash small nap. When I wake, Facebook get message request. Hey, why you block me on Bumble? My chest shift. He don't find me? Display picture now the same studio smile. Location line say CVS parking lot. As if he day send live postcard from Yankee. Petrol fumes almost day come out my screen. I fit imagine man inside car, AC on blast, phone glow making him face look blue. Another message land. Like seriously Nawa. Why you block me like this? Then, I was trying to be a gentleman. Then, pick your calls. I never even block him for Bumble. I open the app. Okay, I did after park. Good. I know accept Facebook request. I lock page like Kurikiri, friends only, no search by email, no face match. He message again, now with punctuation injury. Hello. Respond now. The desperation get pepper inside. Before I fit breathe, Instagram ping. Trailmaster underscoring started following you. 0 posts, leafy bio. DM. It's me. Stop acting. Another DM. Hard eyes under my old photo way I hold coconut at Tarqua Bay. Voice note drop. You day overreact. I be good guy. Nah hike, not kidnap. Send your address, I go make it up to you. His tone gets small edge, like blade way person wrap with tissue. I no reply. I block. I go privacy settings begin scrub. Remove location tags from all posts, hide stories from everyone. Switch comments to people you follow. Unlink email from bio, switch off, allow others to find me. My thumb day sweat. Nightfall. Generator hum like fat cat. I check my door bolts, window latches. I put pepper spray near keys, power bank full. I text compound group chat. A beg, if any visitor come ask for me, call me first. The dreadnought physical thing, wait sit on collarbone. Sunday morning, new account follow. Quiet underscore trails underscore only. I block again. Email arrive through contact link on my portfolio site. Subject, let's talk like adults. Body, you embarrassed me yesterday. I rented car because of you. You cost me fuel. Why you wicked? Drop address make I bring you smoothie. Another email 2 minutes later. You think you're special? I'm just trying to help you relax. It's your fault I'm stressed. I breathe in, count 4, breathe out 6. Open Notes app, start document way I title evidence. Screenshots, Bumble chat, Facebook request, Instagram DMs, email headers with timestamps. I send the folder to Igioma and to my cousin Kiki way day do law. Igioma call. Babe, document everything. We go report. Kiki message. No reply him again. If he escalate, we escalate. This one get entitlement problem. I report on Bumble first. The form long like NEPA bill. I tick boxes. Harassment, off-platform contact, safety concern. Attach screenshots. Bumble auto reply. Thanks for keeping the hive safe, with one honey emoji way nearly vex me. Instagram next. Report, bullying or harassment. The app ask, did this happen to you or someone else? I select me. Then Facebook, block plus report. It feel like shouting inside generator room. Plenty noise, nobody here. Still I do am. By evening my phone quiet small. I carry him like egg. I go downstairs by planting and eggs. Mama EKA, the shop woman look my face. Wet'n do you? Nothing, I lie. She tisk. If man disturb you, shout. She pack me extra pepper free of charge. That kindness sweet and pain me together. 2 days pass. Silence. Then Tuesday 7:42 p.m. Unknown number. Pick up. I know pick. Message arrive. Why you acting? I'm at the mall parking, near the pharmacy. Come out. My skin cold. I peep curtain, see only Okadas and one man way day sell charger cords. But the message picture attachment show car side mirror reflecting fluorescent light, red dust on bumper and plastic bag with CVS. So he fit day abroad, or him just day right movie for himself. Either way, it's theater meant to scare me. I turn off read receipts, block number, save screenshot. That night I do the lock tour again, front door, back door, window. I move a chair under handle like I be action film extra. Heart still do poom poom like Yoruba talking drum. Sleep come like thief, go like thief. I thought I was done with him the moment I hit bloqueer. Not a dramatic speech, not a telenovela scene, just a thumb on a button. FIM. We'd already done the crying on the edge of the comma, the long circular conversation that only made both of us smaller. He cheated in that blurry modern way. Messages at 2 a.m. It's not what it looks like. A photo from a bar in Pineros with a girl wearing his hoodie. EU can't say. I took my plants, my coffee grinder, my piece, and I left. 2 days later he texted from a new number. Tenho umas coisas tuas. He listed the inventory like he was doing me a favor. One plastic hanger, cab-eyed. One Domino's game from a pharmacy, the cheap kind with the tin dented on the corner. That was it. Not a sweater. Not a book I loved. A hanger and a game. I stared at the message and felt that old exhaustion crawl up my spine. The point wasn't the objects. The point was the string tug. Answer me. I blocked that number too. Silencio. Sao Paulo moved like usual. It always does. Garoa fine as breath on the window. Bus brakes squealing on Rua Augusta. The padaria downstairs baking Pau Francis like a promise. I kept my phone on Neo perturb. Drank suco de maracuja at night to sleep. Checked the corridor peephole like a superstition. One quick look before bed, another in the morning, so por via das duvidas. It was a Thursday when the interphone buzzed. My heart did a samba it didn't audition for. Queme? I asked, voice small. A male voice cheerful. Oi, so amigo do nome deli. Yeli pediu pra, eu dixer uma sacola com umas coisas tuas. Tranquilo. The bag. The hanger. The dominoes. It snapped into focus, and then everything blurred. My mouth went dry. Neo, I said fast. Neo ta tranquilo. Neo precisa. Pod ir. Masjada aqui no porteo, he said, still polite, a little confused. E rapidinho. I hung up. Hands shaking. I looked through the peephole, even though it shows nothing of the porteo downstairs. In the convex circle, only the empty corridor, azulejo blue and white, the neighbor's plant leaning toward the fluorescent light like it knows a secret. My phone buzzed. My portero, SEU Jorge. Temum rapaz aqui dizendo que vai subir entregar uma sacola. Tá autorizado? Neo, I said. Por favor, Neo sob ninguém. Say Yeli and sister, me liga. I sat on the arm of the sofa, the fabric biting my thigh. Thought sprinted. He knows where I live. Of course he does. We lived together for a year. But the knowledge had been abstract, like a map rolled up on a shelf. Now it was unrolled on my floor. He could send people to my door with the excuse of so amigo. A courier of disrespect. The interphone buzzed again. Yeli dikes na portaria, said SU Jorge gently, as if telling me the rain had started. Eu posso guardar aqui. Obrigada, I said, voice thick. Eu desco depois. I didn't move for 10 minutes. I listened to the apartment breathe, the whir of the geladeira, a car horn stretched thin by distance, footsteps on the Andar de Cima. Knock knock. My heart launched. I checked the peephole. My vizinha donatcita, of course, hair in a towel, mascara smudged lovely. She raised her eyebrows at the door like a question mark. I opened. Tá tudo bem? She asked, eyes soft. Eu ouvi o interphone. Oi mina filha. I told her the short version. Break up. He texted. I blocked. He sent a friend. She clicked her tongue. Ai menina. Els neo acidum neona. Tudo correndo tura ultima palavra. She squeezed my shoulder. Sei preciser, eu fico aqui. Odesco com você. We went together. In the elevator, the mirror held two women. Me trying to look like a person. Her, the auntie every preju needs, mouth ready to fight for peace. At the portaria, the sacola waited on the counter under the little sign that says, "Por favor, esse identificar." It had a dull weight, like a small gilt. The tin clinked when I lifted it, a cheap clatter that made me feel 15 again, buying games in a pharmacy because we had nothing else to do. The hanger poked through the plastic like a question mark. I said thanks to SCU Jorge, who shook his head and said, "Qualquer coisa, chama. Se ele aparecer, a gente resolve." On the way back up, I imagined the friend. What did he think, driving or walking to my preju with a bag that wasn't his? Maybe he felt chivalrous, good deed for a bro, bringing closure in a sacola. Maybe he knew exactly what he was doing, showing me I can be reached. A passive-aggressive breadcrumb trail, disguised as civility. In Sao Paulo we know this dance, mask control as Corinho, call harassment cuidado. At home I put the bag on the balcony floor, and left it there like a contaminated thing. My phone lit again, unknown number. I didn't answer. A text arrived anyway. "Received you? Via como eu so tranquilo." The grammar was him, cocky casual, no accents, the jaitinho of laziness. My stomach flipped. I typed, deleted, typed again. Anything I sent would be oxygen. I blocked. Then I called my friend Luana, whose voice is a hammock. She listened to the entire download. "Cara," she said finally, "isso é intimidaco. Yeli quer te lembrar que existe. Yeli neo aguenta que a historia acabou, sem verso dele no final." He's like, "I know your door," I said. "And he can send minions." "Isso," she said. "Mas a gente também tem minions." Her laugh cut the fear. "Uvoe I sábado. A gente troca fechadura." We did. Saturday morning we called a chavero, fast, efficient, smelled like WD-40 and cafe. He changed the cilindro, handed me new keys like a blessing. "Agora so entra quem você dixa," he said, which is basic locksmith copy, but felt like a poem. I went downstairs with a note for the portaria. "Neo autorizer a entrada de Nome Deli. Neo receiber objetos enviados por terceros em nome dele. Se comparecer, ligar para mimi para segurança." The syndico, who loves rules like other men love football, stamped it with a theatrical thump. "Dixa comigo," he said, chest out. I believed him a little. That afternoon I filled out a Bolton do Ocorrência online. It felt bureaucratic and necessary. I attached screenshots. The messages about the sacola, the smug so tranquilo, the new numbers. I wrote in the descriptio box what I wished I had said at the door. This is not about a hanger. It's about access. I texted his friend's number too, the one from the interphone, which I'd asked the portero to note. "Oi, I imagine you didn't know the context. Next time, please don't deliver things for him to my building. It's not safe for me." 3 dots. Then, Paxa. Desculpa. Yeli me diz que era de boa. Eu não sabia que vocês tinham terminado assim. I believed him a little. Entitlement often borrows other people's manners. I took the sacola to the Lixo, yes, even the dominoes. It made a mean clunk in the chute that was more satisfying than I expected. After, I watered my plants with ridiculous tenderness, like they'd survived something too. I made a list on my fridge, boundaries. It was corny and perfect. Portaria, Ene with tilde autorizer. Fechadura trocada. Grupo de amigas, aviso esse algo estranho. Boltum fido. Números bloqueados. At dusk, Sao Paulo threw that soft orange light across my sala, and the city hummed its million souls hum. A neighbor's kid yelled GOL, somewhere 3 floors down. Donut Sida knocked and handed me a slice of Biuelo de Fuba, porque be on the lookout cura. We ate on the veranda, knees touching, the air smelling like chuva perdo. She said, "Ta tudo bem?" And I said, "Ta. Agora ta." Melbourne does this thing where it makes you think everyone's a little bit nicer than they are. Must be the trams, or the coffee, or the way the light hits a laneway, and you go soft in the head for a minute and decide to forgive humanity. Anyway, me a Thursday Fitzroy, little bar with plants that look better watered than my houseplants, and a bloke named Dean who had the jawline of a motivational speaker. First 10 minutes? Fine. He's talking about surfing. I'm nodding like I've ever stood up on anything that moves. He orders a round of spicy margs. I do the polite laugh at a joke that isn't actually there. Then I excuse myself to the bathroom. 2 minutes, tops. The air in the stall is Antarctic and smells like the ghost of eucalyptus. I check my lipstick, send a quick still alive to the group chat, 3 skull emojis back, supportive, and return to the table. He's gone. Not duck to the loo gone. Not at the bar gone. The stool's pushed in, the salt rim on his glass has one smug lick out of it, and there's a damp ring on the table where his presence used to be. It's like someone hit Ctrl+Z on a person. I stand there with my bag strap cutting my shoulder and do a full 360 like a meerkat that's just been lied to. "Hey, you right?" the bartender asks, friendly in the way hospo people have to be to keep society functioning. "Yeah," I say. "Mate, I went to pee and came back to a ghost, unreal." He gives me the face. The again face. Offers me water. I drink it and try to swallow my pride, which has the texture of bad toast. I sit for 5 more minutes in case this is an elaborate prank involving a cake and a camera crew. Nothing. I pay for my own drink, and is because the feminist in me and the petty in me are having a fight, and the feminist wins by points. On the walk home, I buy hot chips out of spite. They burn my tongue. I deserve it. An hour later, a text. "Dean, come over? Let's watch a movie at mine." No explanation, no saws, alien abduction. Just Netflix and chilling like he didn't abscond mid-margarita. I stare so hard at the phone, I can feel my brain go square. I text back, "You left me at the bar. Are you joking?" Dean. "Oh haha, I saw a mate and ducked out. Figured you'd understand. Come round, I'll make up for it," winky face. The wink tips me over. Not rage. Just documentary-level fascination. Because here is a man who truly believes the world runs on his schedule, and women are refillable appointments. I block him and add his number to our group spreadsheet, the one we keep in a shared note like a bunch of suburban witches, titled Red Flags and Return to Sender. My contribution. Dean vanished mid-drink, later invited me over. Leave him on read and feed him to the magpies. You think that'd be the worst, but no. Melbourne is generous like that. Different bloke, different suburb. Call him Lucky because of course. We were seeing each other for a few weeks, the kind of lukewarm arrangement where you can't tell if you're dating or collecting anecdotes. He lived on the 2nd floor of a dusty brick walk-up with a busted intercom. The first time I rocked up, I buzzed and waited. He texted, "Keys are coming down." I look up and swear to God, a set of keys arcs out of a half-open window, clatters off the balcony, and lands on the grass like a meteor that missed. No hello, no I'll come get you. No walk downstairs like a person with legs. Just a gravity-fed welcome. I stand there holding this sad little bundle of metal, feeling like I've been posted a mission from 2003. Next time I try the old "Hey, intercom's still busted, wanna come grab me?" And he goes, "Ah babe, can't, got the game on." The game. As if the stairs will boycott him if he misses the first quarter. Keys come sailing down again, brave little soldiers. I consider punting them into the shrubbery and going home, but I go up because curiosity is a disease. Inside, he's sprawled on a couch that has seen things. He does the whole, "Hey," without standing, and pats the cushion like I'm a Labrador. We watch exactly 11 minutes of football before he attempts the patented arm slither. I stand. "I'm going," I say, cheerful as a flight attendant. He looks confused, like I've spoken an extinct dialect. On my way out, I put the keys on the kitchen bench, where he can't throw them from. He texts the next day, "You mad?" I send back, "No, I'm conducting a longitudinal study on male laziness." He replies with a photo of his abs. I block him too. Into the spreadsheet he goes. Lock key, throws keys from window like a medieval siege. Cannot descend stairs. Maybe allergic to effort. You think you're done collecting weirdos, and then along comes the template man. This one is a case study. Call him Mark. First date. The same wine bar on Gertrude he probably saw on TikTok. He orders the same bottle they recommend to every 3rd table. He asks the exact sequence of questions. Siblings? Favorite suburb? What's your go-to karaoke? It's torn. Obviously, I'm not a monster. He laughs at the right moments. He listens the way they teach you on podcasts. We go home to his, and he gives me the tour like he's on Selling Houses Australia. Plants, vinyl, bookshelf with the same 5 smart titles, art print of a frog smoking. The whole thing is slick, frictionless, suspiciously lint-free. It's not until 2 weeks later, swapping notes with a girl from Pilates, that I get the shivers. She says, "Weird question, did he take you to wine bar, ask about karaoke, then show you the record player while saying music sounds different on wax?" My eye twitches. Did he also point at the plant and say it's needy like me? She goes pale. Oh my God. Turns out he's running a route like a tram. Same restaurant, same bottle, same jokes, same hand on the small of the back exactly at the doorway. The tour ends with the balcony and a line about the stars you can't see in Melbourne anymore. Brother, they were never there. It's efficient, I'll give him that, like a production line of intimacy. He knows where to stand, when to tilt his head, which record to put on, Fleetwood Mac, if you're wondering. He's not a serial killer, he's a serial script reader. Which is somehow worse because you're not a person to him, you're a variable in his rehearsal. Do I roast him? Not really. I just retire myself from the show. I text, thanks for the template. I'm looking for bespoke. He sends a paragraph about miscommunication that contains no nouns. I exit stage left. Spreadsheet entry. Mark, trams a route, do not validate his Mikey. If this sounds bitter, I'm actually fine. There's a dark comedy to it. The micro-humiliations are what get you, though. Like the exact clink of Dean's tequila glass where his body wasn't anymore. The thud of keys in wet grass. The scripted pause before Mark points at the city lights like he bought them. All these tiny sounds that add up to a soundtrack called Men Who Could Try Harder. We aren't passive, by the way. My mates and I, we've built a tiny safety net out of jokes and shared documents and screenshots. There's a rule that if a man says, I'm bad at texting, we picture a toddler holding a phone and move on. We've got a group called the Council of Ants, and every Tuesday we send a red flag of the week. Last week's was, he said I'm not like other girls, so I told him to name 3 girls. He could not. When one of us gets ghosted, the other brings a cob loaf. When one of us gets templated, we put on the same record he put on and dance ironically until it becomes real. It was a Thursday, that fake Israeli Friday energy buzzing on Dizengoff. The bar was half outdoors, high stools, a ceiling fan that sounded like a helicopter who'd given up, a chalkboard menu with Iraq cocktails, and a beer list written in perfect print by somebody who loved letters. The server set down a small bowl of pickles with our drinks because Tel Aviv insists you snack even when you say you're not hungry. I remember thinking, nice, someone trained in the holy art of free olives. He was a friend of a friend situation, Irish name, tech-adjacent job, summer tan you only get from too many weekends in Herzliya. We'd texted in that breezy late-night way. Stupid memes, one photo of his dog pretending to read the paper, nothing too deep. In person, he was taller than I expected, and a little too shiny, watch, shoes, the kind of smile that flashes like a sign. We did the first date basics. Where you live, where you work, the usual lies where you pretend your job is interesting and not just pays rent. He told me his startup was in stealth, which always sounds like a video game, and a tax strategy had a baby. I told him I make podcasts, which is to say I edit other people's feelings for money. We laughed. The fan clicked above us like a metronome for small talk. Then he asked about my weekend plans and I said, Shabbat with my family probably. Savta makes schnitzel the size of a steering wheel. That's when he did it. He leaned back and, with the confidence of a man who never checks a map, said, loudly like he was announcing a raffle, "Oh, you're Jewish, right?" It wasn't a question. It was a declaration fired like a flare. I felt my shoulders lift, that tiny automatic flinch you get when someone shouts your name in a narrow street. The bar wasn't packed, but it wasn't empty either. 2 guys in black t-shirts laughed at a table behind us. A couple on their first Tinder kiss negotiated lips somewhere near the wall. The barman shook something with too much ice. For a second, I was just a person with a drink. Now I was capital J Jewish in 24-point font, bold. I tried to make a joke, keep it soft. I am, but we don't usually scream it in public places, I said, smiling, adding a little wink to show I wasn't fragile. Sababa, relax, it's fine. Tel Aviv is loud enough, low? He didn't laugh. He leaned in, eyes bright with a kind of performance electricity. No, but listen, he said, palms up like he was offering me something generous. It's just, with all that, you know, he rotated his wrist as if he could stir the world into clarity. The money stuff, the media stuff, the way you people. I felt the word like a small stone in my shoe. You people. I mean, I'm not saying you, he added magnanimous, just Jewish people. It's a little, how to say, I would be embarrassed. His mouth enjoyed the sentence. He repeated it, louder, like an opinion he'd just upgraded to a lifestyle. I would be embarrassed. He said other things. Clipped fragments, shortcuts to centuries of bullsh ***, something about controlling narratives. Something about victimhood as a brand. He tossed in a joke he thought was clever about bagels and bankers that made the couple at the wall stop kissing. I could feel my body in pieces, throat tightening like a drawstring bag, stomach doing the sick roll, ears going hot. My coffee, a tiny espresso I'd ordered because I wanted to be smart on this date, tasted suddenly bitter, like I'd licked a battery. I was aware of my mezuzah at home, the tiny one by my door that I touch without thinking each time I leave, the candle's soft lights on Friday nights, her fingers trembling sometimes, how she kisses her fingertips after the blessing and says, Yehi or Motek, as if the light is fragile and she can blow it stronger. I thought of my Saba's phrases, the way he used to say, if you can laugh, laugh. If you can't, walk. I heard him in my head like a little drum. Around us, the fan clicked. The pickles sweated in their bowl. The server hovered, eyes unsure, a question mark in human form. I could feel the bar listening even if it pretended not to. I tried once brief, because I'm not made of air. You're being offensive, I said even. And loud. He smiled like I'd complimented him. I'm just being honest. Someone has to say it, no? Everybody thinks this. You know, media won't let you talk, but me, I don't care. Freedom of speech. He said it like a superhero alias. Anyway, he added, like a man moving cutlery on a table to make room for his point. You're not like them. Not like them. Them, the magic word that turns people into quarry. I placed my hands on my thighs because I'd started shaking, and the old trick of pressing down sometimes helps. I thought about staying, about turning this into a lesson, a TED Talk he didn't deserve. I thought about all the nights we swallow, how many times we carry the weight of someone else's ignorance like a backpack of bricks because we are afraid of looking sensitive. I thought about the world right now, how the volume knob seems glued to max, how a casual drink can become a referendum in a minute. I thought about my grandmother's hands making small circles in the air when she talks about her mother, the way grief lives in wrists and quiet. He kept going. He'd found momentum. He was not talking with me. He was practicing a speech at me. And you know, you play the victim, but then, he stopped, looked pleased, like he'd said something clever. Oy vey, right? He added, a parody, his mouth rounding the words as if they were candy. That one did it. The mockery like a party hat on a funeral. Sleecha, I said, standing. No. What? He blinked, confused, as if I'd cut the power in the middle of his spotlight. Where are you going? Home, I said. Away. I put cash on the table for my drink and the pickles I hadn't asked for. My hands worked strangely, like I was wearing someone else's gloves. I nodded to the server, her face softened, just a hair, tiny solidarity. Behind us, one of the black t-shirts muttered something that sounded like, yikes. It was enough. He laughed, a small ugly sound. Oh, come on. Don't be dramatic. I'm joking. It's jokes. No, I said again, in the way my mother says it when she means the conversation is finished. It's not jokes. He made a hand flip. Typical. Typical what? I asked, and the question was not a question. I did not wait for the answer. Outside, Dizengoff felt too bright. Neon het. Scooters beeped at people who didn't move fast enough. Someone walked by with a bouquet of sunflowers big as a bicycle wheel. I stood under a ficus, breathed like my yoga teacher says. 4 counts in, 6 counts out. Let your belly be soft, let your jaw unclench. My phone buzzed like it felt my pulse and wanted to match. I texted my best friend, Eden. Date went anti-Semitic at minute 24. I walked. 3 typing dots, then, Ma Petum? You okay? Where are you? Outside Dizzy Frishton. I'm fine. Just shaky. Do you want me to come? No. I'm going to catch the 5 home. Text when you're on. I checked the bus app. 7 minutes. I stood with 2 teenage girls in oversized shirts laughing in fast Hebrew. Their slang a machine gun I couldn't follow. A woman with a dog smiled at me and said, "He thinks your bag is food," and I smiled back like my face remembered how. I should have clocked it the minute he said, "I'll sort you by month end," like Bill's wait around with a cuppa. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Name's Ronnie. South London born, a Hackney girl by habit, living in Dubai by accident. Long story. Took a contract, fell for the sunshine and the neat pavements, told myself 2 years max. My flat's in a building that smells like lemon cleaner and ambition. 2 bedrooms, white tiles that show every crumb, balcony squinting at the sea if you lean just right. Him? Call him Lewis. London lad, seen round Shoreditch in a cap that didn't suit him, but confidence can sell anything. We'd been talking for months, a drip feed of voice notes and memes while he wrapped up a project in Manchester. Then, surprise, his company transfers him to Dubai. The plan was he'd crash on my sofa for a fortnight, 3 weeks tops, while he found a place. First red flag, wore a nice cologne. The first 2 weeks were easy. He paid for every grocery run like a game show prize. Salmon, berries, olive oil fancy enough to have a CV. He cooked, too. "You don't know pesto till you've had mine," he'd say, and I'd laugh like I hadn't heard it on 5 dates already. He wiped the counters, stacked the plates, tidied his trainers by the door. I thought, okay. Man's got manners, money, and a decent wrist with a wooden spoon. Could be worse. End of week 2, the landlord messages me. "Hi Ronnie, rent due next Thursday as per." My rent isn't cheap. Dubai likes to raise an eyebrow in the invoice. I show Lewis the number, we agree on half. He nods serious. "Waiting on my last payout," he says, scrolling his emails like the money might walk out and wave. $4,000. They're slow. Next week latest. Don't stress, babe. Babe. I add that to the red flag pile and keep smiling. We settle into a rhythm. I work. He networks, which appears to be brunching with boys called Zach who say crypto like it's a spell. He's always out in iron shorts, white trainers so white they dare the dust. Evenings we watch rubbish telly, and he tells stories about Manchester lads, wild office parties, the time he accidentally bid on his boss's vintage watch at a charity auction and couldn't back out. He's funny. He's pettable. He's also, if you squint, unemployed. Freelance, he corrects me once, eyes going cold. I pick my projects. 3rd week, the groceries get a little less bougie. He forgets the olive oil and brings sunflower like it's naughty. 4th week, he stops picking up the receipts. "You've got it? I'll transfer you the lot when this payout lands." He flashes me his mobile banking app like a horoscope, colorful, meaningless, soothing. His family comes to visit, mom, auntie, cousin, proper sweet ladies with quick laughs. They book a hotel round the marina. He vanishes 2 nights to stay with them, returns with a bag of hotel toiletries, and hugs like he's done me a favor. "They love you," he says. "Said you're solid. Proper wife energy." I do the laugh women do when they'd rather scream. By the end of the month, we've had 3 arguments that start in logistics and end in dignity. "Where's the rent money?" I ask, calm voice, balancing my mug like it's a court transcript. "On the way," he says, leaning against my counter like he pays for it. They're dragging their feet. "International transfer, in it. Banking is a joke. You've said next week for 3 next weeks." He rubs his jaw, does the man-pondering pose. "Do you want me skint in a new city?" It's just timing. That night I can't sleep. The AC hums like gossip. I get up and lay out my finances on the table like tarot. Salary, savings, the remainder after rent, the remainder after food, the remainder after the remainder. My chest tightens. I message my landlord. "Half this week, half next, is that okay?" Tick, tick. He replies with a thumbs up that feels like a lifeline and an anchor both. We start stepping around each other. He's all apologies and charm and promises. I'm all schedules and boundaries and post-its. "Look," I say on a Saturday, sun too bright to feel kind. "If the money doesn't come by Monday, you need to go stay with your mates for a bit. We can revisit when you're sorted." "Stay with my mates?" He laughs like I told a joke. "Babe, don't be dramatic. It's not drama. It's rent." He leaves for 2 nights. I exhale for the first time in days. I clean the sofa where his shape has been living. I light a candle that smells like bergamot and better choices. Sunday evening, he texts, "Back tomorrow with the money. Promise." Monday, he shows up empty-handed, kiss ready, suitcase wheels singing confession on the tiles. "Nope," I say, backing away like the suitcase might bite. "Where's the transfer?" He pats his pockets for theater, pulls out his phone. "They said 48 hours. It's pending. You know how these lot are." "Which lot? Your old company? Your bank? Or the ferries? Why are you like this?" He drops the smile. "You think I'm rinsing you? After everything I've done." I look around at everything. 2 empty Pellegrino bottles, his hoodie on my chair, a plant he overwatered because he felt sorry for it. My voice goes quiet. "You've stayed in my home for a month and haven't paid rent." "Yes. I think you're rinsing me." Something sharp crosses his face. He throws his hands up. "You're leaving me homeless in a country I don't know. That's on you, yeah?" There it is, the pivot men do when they meet a boundary and call it a betrayal. Find a hotel. Call your mom. Call Zach from Crypto Brunch. It's not my job to carry your bad planning. He stares. "Ask your mom for the money then." "My mom?" I laugh. My mom would sooner send a curse. That night, the air feels heavy. I message my landlord again, honest as a bruise. "Flatmate situation messy. I will cover by Friday." He's kind about it. Kindness makes me cry harder than cruelty. Lewis sulks in the guest room till midnight, then reemerges, leaning in the doorway like a sad statue. I'm sorry, he tries. I'm stressed. I didn't mean to snap. Look, let me stay one more week. It's all coming together. I shake my head. No more weeks. You can stay till tomorrow afternoon to sort your things. That's it. He paces. You're making me the villain. You're auditioning beautifully. He mutters something about loyalty and gratitude, and how I'll never find someone who cooks like him. I say nothing. I won't box with air. The next morning he's gone before I wake, leaving his spare key and an apology note that reads like a legal disclaimer. There's no transfer. I send him one final text. When the money arrives, if it arrives, send it. Otherwise, we're done. I mute the chat. I block him on Instagram, where his stories look like adverts for a life he doesn't pay for. I'm not dramatic. I'm Brooklyn. There's a difference. By that I mean I don't make a federal case out of nothing, but I also don't let nobody play me. So when I matched with this guy on Hinge, let's call him Sam, because of course he looked like a Sam, jawline like he ordered it off Amazon, I was cautiously optimistic. He had the dog pic, the one where the pit mix looks like it pays rent. He had a book on his nightstand. Was it actually his? Unclear. And he had that one photo at a rooftop bar with Manhattan behind him like a screensaver. Fine. Cute enough. We joke about his, I make a mean carbonara prompt. He says, challenge accepted. But first, pasta made by professionals. We pick an Italian spot on Court Street. Tiny, warm, smells like roasted garlic and olive oil swallowed a match and lit the whole place gentle. A date that felt like it had come with bread. I love a date with bread. The day of, I do my ritual. Not the heavy glam, just the I look like myself but shinier kit. Shower with the grapefruit body wash that makes me think of vacations I never take. Air dry curls, a little leave-in, a little gloss. Gold hoops, not the big court date ones, the nice medium hoops, the I speak, you listen size. I play that stupid old Spotify playlist I built in 2019 when I believed in soft boys and rooftop films, blood orange sunsets, and skinny margaritas in plastic cups. The first song hits, and I laugh at myself. Girl, I tell the mirror, we're retired from clowns. The mirror is like, we'll see. Dress? Navy slip with a cardigan, I'll definitely lose by July. Boots that say, I can run for the train, but I won't. I text my friend Kay. Pasta date, pray for me. She sends back rosary beads, and the little Italian flag, and a meatball emoji, because she's ridiculous. We've got a 7 p.m. res. At 3 p.m., 4 hours before, my phone buzzes. Sam, hey, sorry. Something came up. Can't make it tonight. I stare. Read it twice. Something came up. Like he's a dentist, and my molar walked out. No reason, no reschedule, no my grandma fell from the cloud. Nothing. I feel that little pinch under the ribs, the one that says, don't do this again. Don't argue with a bare minimum. I type no worries, because I am a lady, and then I add, by forever, because I am a lady from Brooklyn. Send. Throw my phone on the bed. Walk to the fridge. Open the door and stand in the cold like it's church. There's leftover penne. I could reheat it, make my own date, save the babysitter fee for my dignity. I text Kay. Cancelled. Something came up. Kay. He can choke on the something. I light a candle, blow it out. Put the cardigan back on the hanger. I'm not crying over a man whose jawline probably pays in Klarna. I order Thai. I pick a movie where everyone is messy but honest. The sun slides down behind the buildings like a kid going under a blanket. Fine. Night rescued. At 7:01 p.m., right when I'm deciding if the curry needs more rice, my phone lights up. Sam, I'm outside. Let me know when you get here. I read it once. Twice. 3 times. I look at the clock. The audacity keeps time better than my oven. I type, sir, you canceled our date. What do you mean you're outside? 3 dots. He's typing. I can hear his shoes. I imagine them, white sneakers, lace knots fat as marshmallows. Then, Sam, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I canceled on the wrong person. There it is. The wordless thing I've suspected about the apps but tried not to name. The spreadsheet heart. Columns of girls, cells colored green or red. Double booked, double-eyed, and then the coin toss went the other way and I was what the clerical error? My stomach does that slow, hot flip. I put the phone on the counter like it bit me. You canceled on the wrong person. So you had 2 dates at 7. You did a eeny meeny and told the wrong woman to kick rocks. And the best part, you didn't even catch it till you got to the restaurant and realized the seat across from you had a personality and a pulse and a different name. I don't respond. It's not a debate, it's a diagnosis. My phone buzzes again, and because I'm dumb in this one specific way, I look. Sam, I feel terrible. Come out. We can laugh about this. I picked a bottle of Barbera. I laugh. Out loud. A dry, sharp bark of a laugh that makes me cough. This dude thinks wine is an apology. He thinks grape juice with a degree erases the math. We can laugh about this. Bro, you canceled me and kept to second me. That's not a blooper. That's an HR training. I walk to the window. Down on the block, the deli guy is stacking seltzer cases in a little pyramid. 2 kids do wheelies, 1 foot flashing white sock, 1 foot bare. The night is fresh and bright and full of people who know where they're supposed to be. I think about my grandma who would say, people show you who they are when it costs them nothing. It cost him nothing to be decent, and he couldn't afford it. Still, I'm not gonna pretend I didn't want the date. I wanted the ridiculous romance, the bread basket, the warm bowl, and the first sip and the laugh that lands. I wanted that version where something came up was my aunt broke her hip, and not, I'm a coward with a calendar. If you've been on these apps longer than a week, you keep a little wallet of imaginary nights in your pocket. You take them out and look when the train is late. That's the part that hurts. The tiny loss of a night that could have been perfectly average in a nice way. He calls. I let it ring. Decline. Text again. Sam, seriously, I'm mortified. Come out. I'll explain. Explain what? You're spreadsy. Nope. Not today. I scroll back through our messages, just to punish myself a little. The carbonara joke. The photo of his dog with the little paw over its eyes. The my nana taught me about good olive oil line, which, now that I'm revisiting it, reads like it's been deployed often. I picture the copy-paste muscle in his thumb. I picture the other girl, wherever she is. Did she get the something came up? Or did she get the seat? Did she get his grin and the story about his short-lived DJ phase? Is she laughing, right now, at a story about how he accidentally canceled the wrong date? Did he practice the boyish shrug in a mirror? My phone pings a photo. The awning of the restaurant, soft yellow light. The text, I'm literally outside. Then, like a genius negotiator, he adds a crying laughing emoji. That emoji is the weapon of men who think consequences are a vibe, not a law. I type, you canceled on me. Not a mix-up. A choice. I don't send it. I don't need to be the teacher in his adult education class. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I eat my curry. It's a little too spicy and exactly right. Madrid on a Saturday moves like it has somewhere better to be. The air is warm and a little sticky with laughter. Music leaks from narrow windows. The clink of vasos echoes in stairwells. There's always a citrus note. Lime from sangria, cascara rubbed on glass. We'd gone to a private comedy show in Lavapiés. Tiny room, plastic chairs, the kind of gig where the comics are funnier off stage. He, Alvaro, charming in that Madrileno way, kept a hand light at my back, bought me agua con gas without asking, laughed at the right bits. I thought, okay, this is simple. After, someone said fiesta en casa, and we drifted with the crowd up to a third-floor piso that smelled like basil, cheap cologne, and tortilla recién hecha. An hour in, I took a break from social stamina and parked myself by the kitchen sink, filling a vaso with water from the little osmosis tap. A guy about my age leaned on the counter, also hiding from the music. He was telling me about his short film, voice low, polite, almost shy. Nothing flirty beyond the ordinary kindness of 2 people being people. Alvaro had disappeared to say hola to friends. He came back fast, like a storm changing lanes. ¿Qué haces? He snapped jaw tight. ¿Qué haces hablando con mi chica? The words hit the tiles before I could translate them into sense. Perdona, I said, confused laugh already forming as a bridge to normal. I'm just. He didn't wait. He took 2 steps, squared up, and like in a bad movie where timing is cruel, punched the guy in the face. A clean, ugly crack. The vaso in my hand jumped. Water kissed my wrist and ran down to my elbow. The kitchen froze. Nobody had seen the wind-up, only the silence after, the shock-sucking sound out of the room. The guy staggered, eyes wide, one hand to his cheek, more surprised than hurt. Yes, mi chica. Alvaro barked, chest out, knuckles bright, as if he'd performed heroism. Macho carved in cheap marble. He looked at me for approval like a dog expecting a treat. Something in my stomach turned to stone. "Estás loco," I said, steady as I could. "No soy tu nada." I put the vaso down carefully, so my hands wouldn't show the shake. To the man he'd hit, "Estás bien?" He nodded, stunned, eyes wet with fury. He swallowed. Someone pressed a bag of frozen peas into his hand, like we were in a sitcom about first aid. I moved to the hall. Alvaro followed, spitting angry syllables that fell too close to my face. "Te traigo, te presento a mis amigos, y tu coqueteando, que falta de respeto." Out on the stairs it was cooler, the party noise muffled to a bass line. I pulled out my phone to call a cab. He knocked my hand down, not a hit, but the suggestion of one. "No te vayas," he hissed. "No me dejes así." I stepped back. "Voy a irme ahora." My voice was calm, which felt like a trick my body was playing on me. He trailed me down the stairs, berating me bruja, dramatica, que vergüenza, volume up, pride hurt. At the portal, the street sighed its usual Saturday sigh, scooters whining, laughter bouncing off stone. Two chicas smoking outside looked over. One lifted her chin in a question. "Todo bien?" I shook my head a little. She stamped her cig, came closer, placed herself between us with the casual authority of a patrona. "Tío vida casa," she said to him, bored and dangerous. "Se te ha ido." You lost the plot. My ride icon crawled across the map like a lazy insect. Alvaro paced, hurling little insults that tried to sound like wounded poetry. "Te sueda toda la noche," he said, like protection was a bill I hadn't paid. The chicas stayed. One of them murmured, "Si quieres, nos quedamos hasta que te vayas." I nodded. The car arrived. I opened the door. Alvaro leaned in, last attempt. "No hagas drama." The driver looked at me in the mirror, eyebrows ready. "Todo bien?" he asked. "No," I said. "But go por favor." We slid into Malisana like a coin into a slot. My hands started shaking then, the delayed tax. The phone felt cold and heavy in my palm, a small indifferent machine. I texted the host, explained what happened in short, sharp lines. He replied fast, "Lo siento muchísimo." "No lo six. ¿Estás bien?" Then another message from an unknown number 15 minutes later. The guy from the kitchen, "Soy Diego. Por eso necesitas testigo. Te escribo para decir que no hiciste nada." Relief snuck in with the Madrilenian punctuation. We made the Tinder account because we were bored and the dorm Wi-Fi was actually working for once. Summer term in Cairo is like living in a hairdryer, everything humming and sticky, so you invent entertainment. You lot not again, I told them, but Nadine already had my photos lined up like suspects. One at Saqqara where I looked too serious, one with my cousin's cat, instant lies. I'm allergic, one in a blue dress that makes my mother say mashallah, and my aunt say who is he? We sat on the tile floor under the fluorescent corridor light, door propped open, the hallway smelling like Dettel and someone's late-night ramen. Every swipe came with a chorus. La tu, beard is doing too much. Iwa dimples. Wallahi, if he writes gym plus travel plus food again, I will uninstall his personality. Then match. The guy's name was Kareem. Bio, film nerd, tea over coffee. Location, 3rd floor. Nadine shrieked. He's literally below us. I didn't actually swipe right, but the girls were driving and I was the scenery. 2 minutes later, 2 of the boys from our floor thundered down the stairs like messengers from a bad kingdom to tell him the news. She matched. She likes you. The whole building turned middle school in 20 seconds, people peeking out of doors, the resident assistant pretending not to notice because she too was bored. Go say hi, they said, pushing me toward the stairwell like I was being sacrificed to the Nile. I found him leaning on the railing, looking up with that half-smile boys learn from movie posters. Nice enough face. Clean t-shirt. Sandals, not slides. Hey, he said easy. So we're neighbors. Apparently, I said, already planning my exit strategy. We did the awkward tour, classes, hometowns, the obligatory joke about dodgy elevators. He was sweet, not creepy, which almost made me feel worse. There's a special kind of guilt in disappointing someone pleasant. I kept it dry. Listen, full disclosure, my friends were swiping. It wasn't really me. I added a smile so it wouldn't cut. His face flickered, but stayed friendly. Ah, cool, he said. Group project. He asked for my number. I gave it because I am a coward or a diplomat or both. Later that night, I stood outside under the jacaranda, watching purple petals stick to the pavement while I waited for an Uber. The air smelled like petrol and sweet bread from the corner bakery. Kareem came out with a bag of garbage and a hopeful look. Going somewhere? He asked. Home, I said. Cap is coming. We traded small talk that felt like trying on shoes that don't quite fit. When the Uber pulled up, he waved. Text me if you want sometime. I said, Inshallah, which in Cairo is a yes, a no, and a boundary depending on tone. Different night, different theater. Bar off Road 9, neon sign pretending to be European. I met a musician there, curly hair, guitar case he carried like a personality. We kissed in a corner because the music was loud, and we were young, and the bartender was bored. He asked me out properly. I said okay. I went to the bathroom to fix my lip liner, and a girl, sharp eyeliner, gold bracelet, grabbed my wrist like we were already friends. Listen, she said, clipped, almost out of breath. Hugh Alyssa by 7 Ebony. He's still in love with me. Any mean? I asked, more polite than I felt. Who are you? X, she said, eyes bright with either tears or fury, same sparkle. He was blowing up my phone yesterday. She said it like a verdict, not a warning, but it landed as both. I stood there with the paper towel going damp in my hand, counting the beats of my own stubbornness. Outside, he was smiling at someone else, and I felt suddenly like the extra in a soap I hadn't auditioned for. I didn't accuse him. I didn't stay either. I texted. Something came up. Good night. Then I left with my dignity zipped up like a jacket. Back in the dorm, the girls wanted updates, popcorn already in bowls. So, Kareem? So, Guitar Boy. I told them the PG versions. Nadine rolled her eyes. Ya Benny, we're doing science. We need data. I laughed, but the laugh had edges. That night I lay in the hot dark and listened to the building. The elevator groaning, someone dropping a spoon, a couple arguing softly in Arabic that sounded like singing. My phone lit up, Kareem. T? Musician, a selfie with a sad face. I turned the screen face down. I said yes because he was popular and I was 16 and stupid. There, I said it. I was a relationship girl, the kind who hops lily pad to lily pad, but there were a couple of weeks between boyfriends where you're supposed to have experiences, right? And he was the kind of boy who high-fived teachers and cut lunch lines and still got invited to everything. If everyone else wanted him, maybe I was supposed to want him too. We met at the Cheesecake Factory, the one with the TVs everywhere, so you can watch other people live bigger mistakes than yours while you chew. I had a plan: order the Caesar salad, stab at the lettuce, pretend to eat. Back then, opening my mouth in front of a boy felt like taking my clothes off. I had this little script I ran in my head. Lettuce is safe, forks are props, sip water when you need a pause. Easy. Except the TVs were replaying that earbite fight over and over, men snarling and commentators shouting, and someone's ear like a dropped garnish. Every crunch of lettuce was a crunch of cartilage. Appetite, dead. Conversation, deader. He wasn't mean exactly, just hollow. Every question I lobbed at him fell into a well. He gave me stats about his team, their record, his car. When he smiled, it looked like he'd practiced in a mirror. I could feel my own face getting tired from mirroring back. The salad got warm. The dressing filmed over like a pond in a horror movie. The second we paid, he perked up. The lights outside were that sodium orange that makes everyone look slightly undead. He said, "Wanna drive around?" And it was the kind of question with no inside it. We got in his Mini Cooper. You know minis. They're cute until you're trapped in one. He parked somewhere in the suburbs near my house. A cul-de-sac with a fountain that had been turned off for winter, so it looked like the mouth of a stone thing yawning. We kissed. Because that's what you do when a popular boy leans in, and the car smells like gas station mints, and there's nowhere else to look. It wasn't horrible, honestly, just not mine. Like wearing somebody else's shoes. We climbed into the back seat because we were teenagers, and that's where teenagers go to pretend it's a room. I remember the fabric being scratchy, and the headliner sagging, close enough to graze my hair. I remember thinking, if I freeze, he'll stop. I did, he didn't. I gave the performance a girl gives when she's collecting a story, not a memory. When it was over, he flipped into the front seat, turned the key, and the car made a sound like a tiny animal dying. "Ha," he said, and did it again. Same sound. He cursed at the dashboard, then at his phone, then at whoever he called for help. His voice changed when he talked to this person, more respect, more plea. "Yo, can you come jump me? I'm on a date." He said the word date like a trophy. Then he told me who he was calling, and the bottom dropped out of my stomach. It was my crush. My actual crush, the person I'd been texting in a smiley face stutter for weeks. They weren't best friends, but they played together sometimes, lived near each other. Of all the boys in the city, of all the dead batteries and all the minis, we were going to bring him here. I wanted to walk home. I wanted to teleport. Instead, I smoothed my skirt and tried to fold myself into something I wouldn't be ashamed of him seeing. Headlights swung around the cul-de-sac like searchlights. My crush parked, got out, and the air around him had a temperature, cold. He looked at me, and then at the boy, and then back at me like I'd put my hand on a stove on purpose. "You good?" he asked in a way that meant you're not. They tried to jump the car. The hoods looked like open mouths. It didn't work. The night got later, the fountain mouth yawned wider, and anger filled the spaces between words. My crush, let's call him M, said, "Everybody in my car. I'll take her home." I should have felt relieved. I didn't. I climbed into the back of another Mini Cooper. Did everyone in the early 2000s buy the same car? M and the boy slid into the front, shut the doors, and the whole car became a sealed jar. Then they hotboxed it. I don't smoke. I didn't then. I still don't. The first cloud was a joke, the second was a dare, the third was a wall. M laughed, and then he didn't. The car filled, and so did he. I could feel his mood like weather. He started to drive. Here is a thing you should know. I had a Bible in my purse. The small kind, soft cover, gold edges. I went to a Catholic school. We collected little talismans like that. I wasn't a great Catholic, but I liked having a thing to hold when the world felt like a slippery room. I slid my hand into my purse and closed around it. The leather felt warm against my palm, like I was holding a living thing. M took corners too fast. Suburban streets that should have been lullabies became knife edges. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Rage has its own engine sound. There is a kind of silence that's louder than yelling. The other boy laughed at one point, and then bit it back when M's hands tightened on the wheel. We blew through a yellow light that was mostly red. The neighborhood became a smear of porch lights and hedges and mailboxes that jumped at the windows. I thought about the headlines. Local girl dead in Mini. I thought about my mother and her neat hands folding laundry, and how she'd pick up one of my shirts and smell smoke, and not know it wasn't mine. I thought about the year on the TV, and how quick bodies come apart. I whispered a prayer I hadn't said since second grade. The words came like beads on a rosary. Hail Mary, full of grace, blessed are you, blessed are you, blessed are you, blessed are you. When I ran out of Hail Mary, I gave God a bargain. If I get home, I'll eat the whole salad. I'll stop saying I hate my body every time I look in a mirror. I'll never kiss anyone I don't want to again. God didn't answer, but the next stop sign did. We screeched in front of my house. He braked so hard I bonked my head on the seat back. Remember how Minis are? To get out of the back, you need the front passenger to fold his seat. The boy in that seat took his time. He stretched. He checked his phone. Finally, he yanked the lever, and the seat snapped forward so fast it pinched my thigh. He turned, met my eyes, and screamed, "Have a good bleep night." I stepped out into the coolest air I have ever breathed. The street lamps made halos on the asphalt. My house looked like a postcard. I wanted to kiss the sidewalk. I wanted to light every candle in every church. Inside, my mother looked up from the sink and froze. "Have you been smoking?" she asked, and I opened my mouth to say no and started laughing instead, the hysterical, relieved kind you can't control. I said I hadn't. I said I was fine. I said everything but the truth, which was, I could have died in a car that smelled like someone else's choices. The next day at school, M didn't text. Then he did. Then he didn't. Then he did, and that rhythm became its own drumbeat. The boy from the date faded into background noise. M took up all the oxygen. We told ourselves we were enemies, which was cute. We dated for 4 years. I always thought the sketchy bar was part of the charm. Neon sign half out, music too loud for talk, the bartender pouring like he'd been dared. Travel Brain says, this is how stories happen. Turns out, the story had bad intent. I met him on my second night abroad. Let's call him Sam. He was funny in the low-effort way, kept saying he knew the real places, not the tourist traps. The first dinner he ordered everything. Like everything. Appetizers, entrees, a second entree, because you have to try the regional special. Desserts plural. He watched me eat with this attentive host energy that felt flattering until it didn't. You're flying home soon, he said, smiling. You need fuel. I pictured myself as a through hiker on the Oregon Coast Trail and laughed. He kept insisting. One more bite. The way he said it made me cold in a warm room. Night 3, same routine, restaurant where he knew the owner, plates arriving heavy and steaming. I'm not a big eater, I'm also Midwestern raised enough to feel rude if I don't clear the plate. He praised my appetite like a coach. He didn't touch me. He barely drank. It was the strangest courtship. Food as ritual, appetite as test. When I excused myself early, he went still, then soft. You'll text me when you land, yes? It sounded less like a question than a setting. I cut the trip short, a day early. Back in Portland, rain rinsing everything clean, empty Tabor smelling like wet cedar, my apartment quiet, my shoulders dropped. 2 days later I woke with a rash on my upper back, a perfect thumbprint-shaped patch, red and itching like a secret. I booked the dermatologist because I am a millennial who pays for preventative care and oat milk. It was a Tuesday. The doctor peered, hummed. Contact dermatitis, she started, the phrase people used to be kind when they don't know yet. She swabbed, took photos, said she wanted to run a panel. You use any new creams? I shook my head. Soaps? No. As I left, she put a hand on my sleeve in that very specific way medical people have when they're keeping you steady while widening the net. If it changes, spreads, blisters, call me. Today, it spread. By afternoon, it looked like a map, angry borders. I sent a photo through the portal. She called, not messaged. Can you come in right now? Her tone carried a weight that made my keys slippery in my hand. When I arrived, there was another person in the room. Not a nurse. Suit without tie, weary eyes. He introduced himself with a first name and a badge. He said FBI like he was apologizing for the punctuation. The doctor rolled her stool close. Natalie, the compound in the cream, because there was a residue in the swab, is not standard dermatology. It's a derivative we don't see. She glanced at the agent. He took over. It's associated with certain crimes. Ritualized violence. He didn't say the word. He didn't have to. The room tilted. My mouth went dry the way it did when Sam said, one more bite. They asked me to walk through everything, where we met, what I ate, whether I'd left a jacket on a chair, whether I'd felt faint, no. Whether I'd noticed any lesions or scratches before, no. Whether he'd touched my back, no, not that I remember. They asked for his number. I had the texts. You home? You rest? Little check-ins that read like care but clocked like surveillance. I gave them the restaurant names. They wrote them down, an inventory of nights I now wanted back. They coordinated with overseas police, jurisdictional pinball. My sister, who'd been on the trip with me and left for the airport earlier, sat in my living room that night, eyes huge, hands around a mug she never drank from. The agent called at 1:17 a.m. with an update you don't want anyone to say out loud. The apartment had been raided. Evidence of multiple missing women. Freezers. Tools. Journals. Photos. He used phrases like consistent with preparation and material preserved. I thought I was going to drown in my own living room. My phone lit with international texts from Sam in the blue bubble cadence of panic. Why aren't you answering? I'm worried. You promised to text. Then more frantic. Did you go to police? You misunderstand me. The agent said, do not respond. I didn't, and still, his words crawled under my skin like something I couldn't scrub out. Sleep turned nocturnal. I woke at 3 a.m. every night, breath sawed short, the taste of metal back in my mouth. My back healed slowly, an angry map fading to coastline. The doctor explained the compound in more detail when I could bear it. Numbing agents, anti-clotting, something that could be used to slow tissue decay. The words were clinical and kind. They tore me open anyway. There were interviews with the sister who'd been on the trip, with the airline, with the hotel. The overseas police sent their own questions. I got very good at narrating without leaving my body. I walked in empty Tabor rain, Portland's best antiseptic, and wrote one line in a journal every day. Thank you for the breath. It felt hokey. It also worked. On our second date, he said, half joking, let's escape winter. Marrakesh. And I laughed like that was a normal sentence. 2 weeks later, I was in a riad with a courtyard of orange trees and a sky so blue it felt edited. We ate taginess that hissed like secrets and mint tea so sweet my teeth hummed. On day 3 he said, let's see the coast, Essaouira, big waves, very cool. And I said yes because the sun makes you brave and stupid in equal parts. I don't swim well. I can float like a stubborn leaf, kick to the edge if no one's touching me, but water has always made my heart mispronounce itself. Childhood flashes, my brother pushing me off the shallow step at the municipal pool, the shock of the cold, my mother's voice, shwaya, shwaya, as if ease can be commanded. I told him this. He squeezed my shoulder. Matkafish, Habibdi. Yalla. I've done jet skiing 100 times. You'll be with me. The harbor smelled like salt and diesel, gulls slicing the sky, men in orange vests shouting in French and Darija, the syllables bouncing off water. The jet ski looked like a toy until it roared, then it was a small animal smelling fear. The attendant tightened my life jacket and grinned. BA7? You good? I nodded because pride is a cousin of doom. We left the calm inside the breakwater, and the sea changed sound. The engine's moan thinned, the chop slapped, the wind ate our words. He shouted over his shoulder, Tamam? You okay? I shouted back, Mzion, lying to both of us. Ahead the water was a moving wall, green and heavy, the kind of wave that makes surfers write poems and civilians make wills. The swell lifted us like a hand. For a second the world paused at the lip, and I thought, we're fine. We were not fine. The jet ski met the wave wrong, nose up, angle bad, and the next second we were in air, then in water, then in nothing. The sea swallowed sound. Salt stung my eyes, my nose, inside my head. Up lost meaning. I surfaced coughing and saw the machine a miracle distance away, slick and indifferent, as if it had divorced us mid-argument. Hold me, he shouted, face pale against the black sea. He swam toward me, and the wave rolled us both like coins. The world rotated, sky, water, a mash of foam and engine oil. Panic arrived like a third person, loud and bossy. My life jacket hauled me up by the bones, and I gulped air that tasted of metal. Yalla Habibti, hold on, he said, and grabbed my hand, then tried to pull us toward shore like a hero in a cheaper movie. Another wave hit. The sound of it was a train in a tunnel. He disappeared. I screamed a name I did not believe in yet, a thin thread pulled from my throat. He resurfaced, coughing, eyes shocked. I'm here, he said, which is something people say when the truth is loose. The rescue boats looked far and busy. Time lengthened, a ribbon knotted at one end. The shore was a line of white teeth, always the same distance, no matter how we kicked. He tried to swim us again, strong strokes that went nowhere, his breath breaking into pieces. Stop, I said finally, voice gone small. We wait. We float. He nodded like someone learning a new religion. We became objects, bright life jackets in the dark spread of the Atlantic. The sea lifted us, set us down. I watched the sky for the color of help. A gull drifted overhead like a bored angel. Somewhere behind terror, my mind did flashcards. My mother's hands patting dough, the smell of my father's sweater, a song my grandmother hummed when she shelled peas. Every memory included breath. I promised breath 100 times if it would stay. The rescue jet ski came at last, carving a white line toward us. The man driving it shouted, Nah, nah, here, and his face was the most beautiful map I've ever seen. He hauled me first, then my almost boyfriend, muscles neat and furious. Mat kafish, he said, don't be afraid, as if it were optional. The return was a slam bang of speed and spray, wind freezing my wet skin into a second person I didn't know. On sand, my knees failed in a theatrical way. I lay there and felt the world hold still for the first time in minutes or hours. He crouched beside me, touching my face like I would disappear. Sam Sevenini, he said, I'm sorry, voice broken at the edge. I nodded because speech was too expensive. That night in Marrakesh, in the soft square of courtyard light, I shook. Sleep was a place with a trapdoor. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the wave lean over me again, a heavy green god. My body ached in odd places, collarbones, toes, the hinge of my jaw. I wrote in my journal with hands that still trembled. Thank you for the breath. Thank you for the men who drive toward panic. Thank you for the small blue tile by the bed, and the orange tree, and the fact of ground. Koreatown, Saturday, late afternoon. Young Allah sa living tea house parang stage wash. Soft, flattering, a little unreal. Tables elbow close, teapots glinting like props. I'm early by 5 minutes, which is to say I'm on time. He arrives with that actor swagger, chin a little higher than necessary, voice projecting to the back row. Cute, I'll admit. Theater kid cute. I tell myself, Kalmalang Izzy. Tilang to DBA? We sit. He sits. She smiles. Lights hum. The server drops menus. He launches into his resume like a trailer. Shakespeare in the Park, a short at Tribeca, 2 callbacks. I sip jasmine and nod the way you nod when someone is juggling and you don't want to break their rhythm. The teaspoons clink iambic, clink clink, clink clink, like someone's metronome is on. Do you drink? He asks. Rarely, I say. Tea house is perfect. He grins. Good. It's like a rehearsal room, but with pastries. I laugh. I shouldn't have. Because when I joke, Siggy na do a monologue then, he takes it as a cue. Not a figure of speech. A cue. Cue. He folds both legs onto the chair, a little pretzel of intention, and the room bends toward him the way a room does when someone chooses to be loud. Should I do the one I've been working on? He whispers, which is his version of consent. Up to you. I say, hands up, palms out, an innocent shrug. K it short lang. He inhales. Drops in. He transforms. Accent shifts, eyes sharpen, shoulders creep toward ears. And then he is not himself. He is a man from Split, a voice like a knife, a body in angles. The tea house is suddenly a theater with no fourth wall, and the audience is 10 strangers and one date who started this and regrets everything. 57 seconds. I count them on the spoon. The bell on the door dings a key change. The woman behind us stops mid-bite. The barista freezes with a tray in midair. I feel heat creep up my neck, and then a giggle bubbles up because, hoy Izzy, this is insane. Hilarious. Mortifying. A future anecdote being carved out of present time. And then it ends. Blackout. He returns, blinking, like he's climbed out of a well. Too much? He asks sheepish. Medio, I say. Pero impressive. I let my mouth shape a smile that's 90% goodwill, 10% exit strategy. After the applause that isn't, just chaotic cutlery and relieved chatter resuming. The energy dips. The scene is over, and scene partners are just people again. Conversation scrapes across the table. He asks if I've ever considered acting, repeats one of my phrases back to me with my exact cadence. She says, I like quiet. He says, I like quiet, which is not the same thing. The server drops the bill like the curtain coming down. He pats his pocket, frowns. I left my wallet, he says, eyes up, stage wide. Okay, Lang. I hear myself say, too quick, the reflex of women trained to swing a safety net under other people's choices. I'll get it. He does reimburse later, true to his text, but the beat has landed. The logic is set, my cue his entrance, my cover his bow. I dodge a second date. She dodges. He pursues. We have mutuals. I am polite but foggy. Then my friend says, birthday essay downtown, Samaka. We go. There's a cover, $20 cash. At the door, the bouncer waves us through. You're with the guy in front. He covered everyone. The guy in front is Monologue Boy. He sees me and gives a smile that is not hello so much as recognition. All night I can feel the weight of his gaze on the back of my shoulders. Not a stare so much as a bookmark. Whenever I glance at the mirror behind the bar, there he is, over my shoulder in the glass, then in the window, then in the black shine of my phone. Gaze repeated. He doesn't approach. He occupies. When I finally decide to leave, my friend stays. Uber kana, she says. I call the car. We step outside into that downtown breeze that smells like heat and perfume and a little bit of engine. The driver rolls up. I reach for the door. Door opens. He slides in beside me without invitation, a stage crash with perfect timing. Hoy, I say stiff. Excuse me? He smiles like we're sharing a secret. I overheard. Your car's by my place anyway. The driver glances in the rear view. Driver, silent audience. We peel off. 15 minutes. He doesn't speak. He doesn't scroll. He just sits, spine tall, hands steepled, eyes forward, breath measured like he's saving it for a cue. The car turns into a strange little theater with seatbelts. At his street I tell the driver, stop here please. He leans in close enough that I can count pores. You feel it, he says, voice low certain. Don't lie. I've never been so seen. In Taglish, the words come out sharper. Walla kong nararamdaman. Hindi kita gusto. Bumaba ka. I keep my tone flat, actress playing bored instead of scared. He goes very still. Then, soft as a stage whisper that wants to be a scream. You're an energy vampire. Like a diagnosis. Like a spell. He yanks the handle and storms off, exit, stage right, leaving the word behind like smoke. After that, he migrates to the margins of my day. Story views. Fire emojis on a selfie 2 weeks old. Random DMs. This reminded me of you. With a song I never asked for. Nothing reportable. Everything cumulative. Manufactured serendipity. He's at places I might be. He repeats phrases I thought privately. He mentions where I parked once without anyone telling him. Each thing small. The pile not small. We match on Hinge. She's tall, stunning, all confidence and lip gloss. The kind of profile that makes you sit up straighter. She swings by my job with a friend, just to say hi, and before I can blink I'm invited to take them for food. It's late, LA late, where the city feels like a half-lit stage and you pretend you're not tired. I figure a quick grab and go at LA Cafe. No pressure, no menus the size of novels. At the window she orders like a victory parade. 2 lobster mac and cheese grilled cheeses, she says, bright as a marquee. Side salad, tater tots. Then to her friend, she'll have, and proceeds to order for her too. I'm still reading the chalkboard when the cashier flips the screen, $93 and change, before I've picked anything. I laugh, that thin, we're all friends here laugh, and tap my card. We sit on the metal patio chairs that squeal when you shift. I'm trying to make conversation. She fills the air instead, stories about exes, a near-brand deal, a Zodiac rant, while chewing with the kind of open enthusiasm you usually reserve for a private room and a locked door. It's not the eating, it's the taking, the ordering for others, the assumption that my wallet is part of the ambience. Her friend and I accidentally find a rhythm, music, bad movies, which taco truck stays open latest, while tall girl steamrolls any pause. I clock the red flags and do the math men don't say out loud. I'm already the ride home. That makes me the exit plan, the buffer, the designated adult in a table of 3. On the drive, they direct me like I'm a rideshare app with feelings. I drop the friend first. There's a moment where the night could end politely. It doesn't. We go back to mine. It's fine, it's not love, it's late. We keep talking for a couple months after that, sporadic, blurry, a relationship made of convenience and notifications. The first date sits in my stomach like cold butter. About Disneyland, she'd told me before we met that she'd never been, that it should be our first date. Giant ask. I pulled a favor and lined up tickets anyway, because somewhere in me is a golden retriever with a credit score. After the 2 a.m. lobster flex, I stare at those passes and feel tired. I ask my roommates instead. Boys' day. Churros, sweat, sunburnt selfies, bliss. The texts ping while I'm in line for Space Mountain. So when are we going? And I let them stack like plates in a sink I'm not washing. I'll tell you how it started, so I will. YMCA summer scheme. The kind your ma'am drops you at 8 sharp with a lunchbox and a warning about sunscreen, and you don't see her again till the clock swallows the evening. Boys' school on one side of the road, girls' school on the other, both of us funneled into the same chlorine cathedral because parents have jobs and children have energy. I was 10, maybe 12, somewhere in that soft, wobbly age where your elbows are new to you and your voice doesn't know its own mind. She noticed me first. You know the type, mouth like a motor, eyes that don't blink enough, orbiting you until your name wears thin. I didn't dislike her, not at the start. She'd queue behind me at the water slide, heels bumping my ankles by accident, and when we got to the top she'd shout, "Go on then, Jack," like she'd trained me for it. Some days she'd yank out the chair as I sat, then stand there with her hands to her mouth and giggle like bells falling downstairs. "It's flirting," said the older lads, like they'd done a course in it. It felt like a mean kind. But summer is forgiving, and the pool made us all equal. The rich, the loud, the shy, the ones with proper goggles. Once you slid under the blue, the world lost its edges. The lifeguard's whistle was the law. The echoes of it turned the rafters into a choir. We had 2 hours a day, and we spent them like we were rich with time. On the day that matters, we'd been running the stairs for the slide until our legs trembled. The air tasted of copper and lemon, and the floor left little mosaics on your feet. She kept getting in my way in the queue, hair slicked back, eyes sharp. At some point she leaned in and said like it was a dare, "Do you want to do it?" And I said, "Do what?" And she rolled her eyes and said, "A kiss, Egypt." And my stomach went the way of a dropped stone. There's a peculiar pressure to being looked at like that when you're a boy who says yes to things. I was raised to be agreeable, you see. Help your nan with the shopping, pass the ball, don't make a fuss. Sure, I heard myself say, the same tone I used when the coach asked for volunteers to be goalie. Grand. 5 seconds under, she said. No one'll see. Under the slide is best. As plans go, it had the shape of wisdom. The slide's exit poured a curtain of water into a little cave of froth. Slip beneath, count to 5, pop up as if nothing happened. I've never been a rebel, but that sounded like a rebellion small enough to carry in a pocket. We synced our watches the way children do, by breathing together. 1, 2. Her lips were as blue as mine from the cold. She smiled with all her teeth, and then shut them. We dipped. And for half a second it worked. Under the splash, everything went quiet, like the hush between a question and an answer. Eyes closed. Rubber tiles beneath my toes. The smell of disinfectant a little sweeter down there. We leaned in. The touch was nothing, less than nothing, a bump of two fools who'd watched too many films. I remember thinking, that's it. And also, thank God. Then she shot up. If you've never heard skull meet plastic, be grateful. It's a sound that jumps straight into your own bones. The underside of the slide was hard, and she met it with the crown of her head and the bridge of her nose, a clean, unforgiving whack. I surfaced into white noise, the waterfall's churn, the slap of waves, a scream half formed and swallowed. Blood is such an honest thing. No shy about it whatsoever. It rushed out of her like a secret delighted to be told, a red thread that curled and spread and unfurled in the water, a jellyfish of shame blooming between us. I grabbed her under the arms and hauled her toward the tiled lip. The lifeguard's whistle split the roof. Everyone stopped pretending not to look. They drained the pool. Do you know how dramatic that is to a child? A whole basin of summer and squeal and splashing turning to roar and gurgle, the funnel whirlpool slurping everything away. Kids wrapped in towels like flags stared while the red ribbon thinned and then disappeared down the silver mouth. Her nose wouldn't stop. Her hands were sticky. She looked at me through it all with an accusation so big it needed no words. "You did that," she said later, in the echoey changing room where the hand dryer roared like a jet. "You made me do it." I didn't have a language to defend myself yet, not one that could say we both agreed, and the slide didn't move, and physics is cruel, and I am sorry you hurt and sorry you're angry, but I am not your villain. So I said what agreeable boys say. "Sorry," I told her, and said it again to be sure. She took the word like a biscuit and pocketed it. Not enough. We went back to school in September, and the story came with us like water in the ears that won't shake out. We matured the way plants do, sideways and upwards, looking for light. She kept tab of me with the bright attention of a warden. Some days she'd ask me to the dance with a smile sharp as a safety pin. When I said no, she'd color my name in the margins of other people's conversations. Chairs still went missing as I sat. People still snorted when I stood up too quickly and banged my knee and swore. "It's flirting," the older lad said, barely looking. Met a girl when I was a senior in college that was a junior. We hung out a couple of times through mutual friends, and, while I wouldn't say hit it off, she was fun to be around while drunk. That led to us making out one time while drunk, and it wasn't pleasant. Honestly, I can't recall what was wrong, but I remember it being disgusting for some reason. I do remember she really wanted to hook up, and I didn't. It had come up in conversation previously that she was a virgin, and on top of the makeouts being gross, I just didn't want that sort of responsibility, so I started distancing myself. I told her I wasn't interested. The day of our next mutual friends get-together came around, and she called. I wasn't screening her calls or anything, so I answered, and she was being highly pushy about whether or not I'd be at the party that night. So I decided I'd be better off having a chill night in playing whatever the new Medal of Honor was with a buddy. So I said I wouldn't be there. She did not like that answer, and got downright aggressive with why I wouldn't be there. So I informed her that I wasn't feeling very good, and that I think I was coming down with the flu. I try not to lie in social situations like this, but I didn't really want to hurt her feelings with a, "Hey, you're being oddly pushy about this, and I'd rather just be somewhere you aren't." I eventually placate her enough that I'm able to hang up without hanging up on her and go about my day, casually playing video games. Later that night, however, my friend and I decided to walk to the local corner store for some snacks, and as we left the front door, there was a whole Tupperware full of soup on my doorstep. Okay, that's sweet, you might say, but I never told this girl where I lived. And further, she clearly knew that it was a bit creepy that she was dropping soup off at my place when I hadn't told her that. But why is it better that she dropped it off and didn't knock? That was a bit over the line for me, so I had to call her and thank her for the soup, but also tell her I really wasn't interested in pursuing anything romantic at the time. How dare I infer that from her friendly gesture, etc., etc. So I ghosted her. She called every day for a week or two, and while I never noticed her show up at my house, but I'm sure she did at some point. About 2 months later, she called me at 1 a.m. Enough time had passed that I picked up, knowing full well she was drunk dialing me. She was in tears, and her friends had left her at a bar. That whole group was drama, so this wasn't surprising. I had been having a pretty low-key poker night, so I agreed to go pick her up and take her home. Only when I picked her up, she wasn't satisfied for me to be taking her home, so she started crying at me that I didn't love her or some shit. Keep in mind, I was trying to take her home, and she started accusing me of trying to take advantage of her, and that I needed to stop the car right away or she was going to call the cops. I tried to get her out of rougher side of town, but she was in hysterics. So eventually I relented and dropped her off in a bank parking lot. My thought process being that the security cameras could at least keep watch over her while she called a cab, and in the future I could point to the security footage as evidence that she wasn't forced from the car. Against my better judgment, I called her later that night to make sure she made it home all right. She did. That was the last I ever heard from her. A similar story I would like to share. A co-worker was 4 years older than me and showing interest in me romantically. I worked in a fast food restaurant and was sent to work at a different store 45 minutes away a few times a week. The girl used to work at my store but was fired some time before I started, then got a job as a team leader in this one, but still lived in my town. So arrangement was I'd get up at 6 a.m., she'd come pick me up, and we'd both go to this other town and work until at least midnight, and often until after 1 a.m. Everyone who knew her warned me not to let her get her claws on me. Weird. Strange wording. Apparently, she was definitely going to try to get me to sleep with her. One of my best friends worked there too, and was her ex. But I hadn't spoken to him much since he was working 80 hours a week, and I was at university before I took a year out. So I was loyal to my friend and wasn't going to do anything to hurt him. I dismissed it. No, she wouldn't try anything. Anyway, the first shift I didn't drive up with her. She showed up for the evening shift and drove me home. Her first words to me were, "I'm not as bad as everyone says I am," and I instantly panicked. After a few weeks, she was like my closest friend. The person I spend the vast majority of my time with, and I really liked her. As a friend. Turns out she was interested in me, but I didn't reciprocate. Then one day she suggested I go out with this other girl working there, who was 16, and we'd be so cute together. I asked her how old she thought I was, because I was nearly 21. She was a little embarrassed. I got a million stories about this girl, but after a few months I stopped going up. Everyone in both stores, except for me, hated this girl. But I understood her. I heard her side of everything. Hell, I knew this girl better than I knew anyone. We've spent so much time together, just talking. She knew me as well. But because she was the ex of a close friend, and they hated each other. So nothing happened, but there were a few close calls. Anyway, I left that job, AMD a few months later. She raped a 17-year-old and fled the country. He got 35 grand from the restaurant. I was at a party in college with a big group of our friends. We see this girl there that we knew from our dorm building the year before. My roommate had had a huge crush on this girl the year before, but she told him she wasn't interested in dating. Otherwise, she had always been a nice person and fun to hang out with. Anyway, this girl sees me and says it's good to see me, asks how I've been, etc. We talk for a bit, then she asks if I want to step outside while she has a smoke. I said sure. It was hot inside and I wanted to step outside. We talk for a bit. Go back inside. She asks me to play beer pong with her. We win 3 games in a row and is always super excited when we make a cup. I kind of wanted to leave, but we kept winning games. Finally we lose, and before I can say anything she grabs my arm and pulls me outside so she can smoke again. At this point I really want to leave. She was nice, but she had been a bit too touchy-feely, and I wasn't interested. I also wasn't feeling that well. I had an upset stomach. Additionally, I didn't want my roommate, who was at the party, to think I was interested in this girl, because he used to have a big crush on her. We go back inside after she smokes, and I said, "Hey, I'm not feeling well. I think I'm going to head out." She acted like she was heartbroken. She says, "Here, put my number in your phone, and call me so that I have your number." She put me on the spot, so begrudgingly I did it. I quickly grabbed my coat, told my roommate about the situation, and that I was trying to avoid this girl, and we both left. I got back to the apartment and signed onto Facebook to talk with friends. This was before Facebook had chat for mobile, and people were chatting on the Facebook Messenger on your browser. Shortly after, creepy girl messages me on Facebook. She must have left the party immediately after I did, because she was now sending me Facebook messages, again, before Facebook Messenger mobile. I don't answer and close out Facebook. Then she texts my cell phone, then calls me. I continue not answering. Over the next 20 minutes I got 7 calls/texts from her that I was not responding to. Finally, the texts and calls stopped. I leave my room to go get a snack, and my roommate, We lived together but slept in separate rooms, says, "Hey man, I'm sorry, but I told creepy girl like a year ago I'd teach her how to play guitar. She's taking me up on that offer now, and she's coming over." I felt bad saying no. I figure if you just hang out in your room, it should be fine. I told him about all the texts and calls I had just received, and he was like, "Oh no, that's not good." This girl had guilted my roommate into coming over so she could see me. I hide in my room with the door locked and hear her knock at the door to the apartment. My friend lets her in, and they talk for a few minutes. Then she comes to my room and is knocking on the door and jiggling at my door handle because she wants to say hi. My roommate said, "Hey, he's not feeling well. I think he's sleeping. Let's go hang out in the other room." They hang out in the other room. It's quiet for a while. Then I hear her go use the bathroom that is next to my room, and when she's done she tries knocking on my door again and jiggling the door handle. After 5 minutes or so she gives up and goes to hang out with my roommate again. Quiet again. At this point, it's 1 or 2 a.m. My roommate texts me an hour or two later saying that creepy girl asked if she could sleep on our couch because it's late and cold outside, temperature was in the single digits, and she had a long walk back to her place. He felt bad, so he told her she could stay. He gave her a pillow and a blanket to use on the couch and put her to bed. Just 2 minutes later, she's knocking on my door and jiggling the handle saying, "Please let me in. Please." I ignore her and try to be as quiet as possible in my room. Then she's calling and texting me to let her into the room because she's cold. The heat was on, it wasn't cold. Eventually it stops and I fall asleep. When I woke up in the morning, she was gone. I thought all was fine. After I talked to my roommate, it turns out that she eventually gave up on me and then made her way into my roommate's room and hooked up with him. He felt kind of ashamed that he hooked up with her after being her second choice, but he used to have a big crush on this girl and gave in. Anyway, I texted her and told her to never contact me again. I never heard from her or saw her again after that. To summarize, I saw a girl I was acquaintances with at a party. After hanging out for a bit, I left. That same night, she tried contacting me 7 times with no answer, so she leveraged her friendship with my roommate to get into my apartment anyway. From there, she tried to get into my locked bedroom multiple times throughout the night while I was hiding in there. I was in my 3rd year at college and had just become the president of the anime club. Most of the members had graduated last year, so I was determined to recruit as many new members as possible. And my way of doing that was to befriend them and give them more of a reason to show up every week. But that backfired with one woman. I'll call her Paige. Paige was a freshman and, according to others, was in love with me from the moment she met me. Shortly after the semester started, it had gotten out that I'd broken up with my girlfriend over the summer. What hadn't gotten out was that the reason I broke up with her was because I finally came out as gay to myself. Only 3 people knew at that point, my 2 best friends and my ex. Now that the club knew I was single, there were apparently a few girls that had a thing for me, because Paige actually started a fistfight on campus when she overheard another club member say she was going to ask me out. The only reason I knew this was because one of my best friends was actually in the bathroom when it happened and was the one to call campus security. But that wasn't the end of it. Whenever the club members ate lunch or dinner at the student commons, Paige would make sure to sit as close as possible to me, and would laugh way too hard at everything I said and touch my arm/shoulder/body as many times as she could. She even went so far as to put her hand on my inner thigh once. She would have gone all the way to the groin if I hadn't stood up and walked away. She then chased after me and forced her arms around me and wouldn't let go until I accepted her apology. When I would hang out with other club members, she'd always find out and force herself to come along. Me and my best friends had a tradition of watching Disney movies every Saturday night to de-stress and would invite other friends to it. So of course Paige showed up. She also would make sure to comment throughout the whole movie about how she was like the princess/heroine and I was like the prince/hero. She'd also make sure to slowly scoot closer to me throughout the movie. When we watched Brave, I got up and changed seats 3 different times just to get away from her. She even showed up outside my best friend's dorm room when it was just me and 2 friends and basically forced her way into the room. My best friends had known about my run-ins with Paige ever since the hand on the thigh incident, so they ended up hanging out early just to get rid of her. Paige even started hanging out my dorm building, even though her dorm was on the other side of campus. I used to just keep my door propped open because the AC sucked, and then my other friends in the building could just drop in whenever. But ever since the first time she waltzed into my room, I stopped doing that and made my friends text me when they got outside. I also wore headphones whenever I was on my laptop or listening to music, because if Paige was outside and heard movement, she would hang on the door until I could text my floor's advisor to get rid of her. About halfway through the year, she asked me when I was going to ask her out, and I straight up said never, I'm gay. And her response was, oh, I can fix that. Enough was enough at that point. I had come out to a majority of my friends at this point, so I got them all together and told them about everything to do with Paige. They formed the anti-Paige defense squad and made sure that whenever we were out, in the club, at lunch/dinner, or just hanging out, I would always have the seats next to me filled with one of them. There was actually a time when we were at Dairy Queen, and she literally popped into existence next to our table. One friend even started throwing herself into my lap whenever Paige showed up, just to try and deter her. Paige didn't give up until the end of the year. It was finals week, and I had an 8 a.m. final one day, so I forced myself to eat breakfast that day, even though I normally don't. I found only one friend for breakfast, and we grabbed a table far from the entrance and out of view. Regardless, Paige found us and announced her finals were already done and would be moving out of her dorm today. She forced me to promise her that I would be there to see her off. Obviously, I didn't and stayed with a friend off campus until the end of the day. I also blocked in my phone and ignored her FB friend request since I no longer had any obligation to her as club president over the summer. I moved off campus for my 4th year and found out that she had moved into the dorm I'd previously been living in, so I don't think she gave up right away. One of my nosy friends is still FB friends with Paige and keeps me updated. Paige had started dating another guy from the anime club a few months into her 2nd year and eventually married him in her 3rd year. He's actually 7 years older than her, and we know he used to beat his old girlfriend. She even posted to FB, right, she lost her virginity to him in detail. We even found out they have a kid on the way, so even though none of my friends nor I like Paige, we hope that she and that poor kid aren't going to be in any danger or taken advantage of. Bonus, Paige was going to be a teacher, but she was fired from her job as a lifeguard/swim instructor at the university pool because she couldn't handle children in a professional manner. Plus, she got caught shoplifting from the student store once, and her reason being that since she was going to be a teacher, she needed to get those bad impulses out of her system now. Double bonus, that girl that Paige got into a fist fight with, she asked me out during my 4th year of college in front of the whole club. That's when I formally came out to the entire anime club, not just my friend circle within the club.